It's Friday night. We're doing a show, and it's going to be some stuff and junk and whatnot. We're almost in agreement. Almostinagreement@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostinagreement.com. While you're there, check out nothing. I don't have anything special going on the website. It's just a link to all the episodes, way to get in touch with us. Links to all our different social contacts and stuff like that. So check all that out. Tell your friends about us. Go to your favorite podcast provider while you're there. Give us a subscribe, 5-star review, that kind of stuff. That helps spread the word so other people can check us out too. Working on work and doing stuff and podcasting and doing all the things that we do. So we're going to talk about it here. Let's get going. Hi, buddy.
Hey. Nothing new.
How's it going?
Not too bad.
Anything new and exciting going on that you want to talk about?
I lost some weight.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you take a
Pretty
shit
sure.
on your way here? Or what are you doing? You working out? You exercising?
I mean, as much as work does.
You eating right? Well, that's true. It is. You do work in a sauna.
Yeah. I'm just finally just getting up and moving, which has helped.
Yeah, I can see that. It being a net positive for your body.
To an extent. Hell on the back.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to make sure you're drinking a lot of water.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Which worries me more because I'm like, I'm not peeing very much, but I'm chugging water.
Well, yeah, but you're sweating it out, so that's
Right.
fine. Like, I'm at the point where,
No, that's not fine. You should still be having,
it's not
liquid intake in your body as well.
Yeah, but it's like you're still peeing a couple times a day. It's not like you're not peeing at all.
Right.
Like I'm at the spot in my old man prostate issues or whatever you want to call it, where like I'll drink a bottle of water and like 10 seconds later I gotta pee. Like it's instantaneous and like it's and I gotta pee bad. Like I no longer there's no timer for my pee anymore.
Right.
Like it's like, hey buddy, you gotta pee now.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey buddy, you gotta pee sooner or later. All right, man. Remember that time I told you gotta pee? It's coming on. Like that's how it used to be. Like I used to be like, yeah, I'll get to you in a minute.
Right.
And now it's like, fuck you, I'm peeing. Get somewhere.
I'm ready to go now.
Which is quite off-putting and getting old and whatnot.
Tis a tis.
I mean, the big story is Gloria Johnson.
All right.
Gloria Johnson has announced her Senate run. We already knew this. I already knew this, at least. I knew it was happening. Not officially. It didn't officially happen until she was officially
decent
announced.
chance, but it was like a month or two ago. She put out the
exploratory committee, and she got a treasurer in place and all that kind of stuff.
Which even then doesn't really guarantee, because you could have people look at numbers and be like, hey, there's not really the numbers to make this worth it. But I guess obviously people are saying, hey, you've got a chance.
Yeah. And she doesn't, realistically. She doesn't. I don't see Marsha losing that seat. Yeah. Although Marsha apparently is concerned enough that she's already started dropping the angry rhetoric bombs on her.
Her spokesperson.
Yeah, well, her campaign, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Marsha Blackburn's campaign statement on Ms. Johnson's announcement. It's no surprise that the radical socialist Gloria Johnson decided to jump into the race at the urging of liberals in Washington, joining Marquita Bradshaw, who they beat the shit out of last time around, and others in the race for the Democratic nomination. State Rep Johnson is as woke as they come, and she would be a puppet for Joe Biden, the Squad, Chuck Schumer in the Senate, while Senator Blackburn is working hard to fight back against Biden's woke agenda. State Rep Johnson is pushing that divisive, destructive agenda here in Tennessee. Tennesseans deserve a United States Senator who's committed to fighting for conservative values, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very funny.
Listen to all that policy.
Yeah.
All those policy issues. I mean, and the problem is you can't attack Gloria Johnson on policy. You know why? Because she's never made policy.
I was going to say, I thought I didn't read the article. There was an article that came out like a day or two after she announced that I thought had mentioned her platform, but I never actually went back to try to read it.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I know her platforms. She's creatively pro-choice. Like it's not pro-choice is the word. It's like female bodily autonomy or something like that. It's a less direct pro-choice stance. and it's a blatant gun, some version of gun control or gun reform or something like that are her big two, and then like Medicare, expanding Medicare in the state and all those kind of things, expanded social services. Yeah. And so, and again, like, polling in the state does say that most Tennesseans agree with some sort of gun control reform in the state. But the state legislature won't let anything go through, which is why she and her Tennessee 3 got in more trouble at the last little special session, because they were still pushing that thing, which, at least according to the polling, says that they're right on. But the state GOP is just like, nah, we're not talking about it. We're not going to deal with it. We're not even going to look at signs of people holding on it. And so, I don't think the platform is probably particularly far off. I don't know. I mean, it's a statewide race, so there's no gerrymandering conversation here. It's not like a.
Yeah, I mean, you still have districts that some would argue are, like, mainly around like Nashville.
But it's not like you don't win. You don't win a state Senate seat because you got 57 of the 103 districts in the state. You got 50 plus 1% of the votes in the state. You can't gerrymander a Senate race in the state of Tennessee. Federal Senate race. State races, yes.
How not? Sorry.
How? Because it's the anybody who votes in the state of Tennessee will get to vote for this Senate race. No districting, districting combination in the state is going to change that. Sorry. It's not like, Knox County gets 3 electoral votes.
I got it. Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry.
You were struggling with it. I'm sorry.
No, I told you like 3 sentences ago, like, oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot. So, yeah, the districts have nothing to do with the statewide race. Sorry. Give me a fucking blonde moment.
My bad, friend.
You just did. Sorry.
Okay.
I guess you didn't want to stop to hear me say, like, oh, okay.
Okay.
Anyway, wanted to like drill into it harder.
So I mean, this would be the test in theory if the polling is correct to the voting. Now the problem is nobody votes, and so the actual voting decree is not accurate to the population, because I would wager that probably, I wouldn't say more people are polled because the polling companies aren't polling that many people, but I would say there's probably people that are polled that aren't voters, that don't bother voting.
A lot of like political polls, they do like of registered voters, this percentage this percentage that.
Right. Of likely whatever voters and stuff like that they do say. But it's like, well, of likely voters, well, how many of those likely voters are actually planning on voting? How many of them voted last time around?
Exactly.
How many registered voters don't vote every year? A ton. So, I'm excited about it. It'll be fun. It's neat that it's a local person that has a local personality, and we have a history, and we know of her and who she is, and so it'll be a fun campaign to watch. Because like I tried to get Marquita on the show back when she was running against Blackburn. I tried to get Blackburn on the show too. I reached out to their campaigns and asked for some time, and they both kind of. Well, Marquita's.
I was going to say, what was Bradshaw for leading up to that?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know her personal history, but so it's interesting in that aspect of it. It'll be fun to watch. I think thanks to the state house ridiculousness in the Tennessee 3 creation, she does have a lot more name recognition, and people who are pissed off about the gun control issue, people are pissed off with the bodily autonomy issues, have gotten a lot of news coverage of Gloria Johnson being for these things, and so people who are angry about it and want to change to it already know this person would be a change element. So I think she's got enough gravitas, if you will, that it's going to be a decent race. And from what I understand, it wasn't a blowout. Marcia didn't blow out. I joked earlier that Marcia killed Marquita in that race, but I don't think it was a blowout. I mean, it was significant. It was like 8 or 10 points. Yeah. It's like a 56-44 or something like that. It's significant, which I don't know. I don't know the rules on how do you call that. 10%. Is that a big win? Like, what's the range here?
I wouldn't think so.
I think it is. I think over 10%, I think they consider like a walking away. And so anyway, I don't know. it was mid-50s to mid-40s, so it was on the edge of a blowout, I guess. Whatever. So, anyway, I think it's, like I said, I think it's interesting that she's running. I think it'll be a fun thing to watch. I think it's ridiculous that it is September of 2023, and this is already the top topic of our conversation for the night, because that is a good 16 months away, 15 months away from election time. I mean, she does have a primary, which would be in a year from now.
Okay.
Because Marquita is running as well, and so she's got a primary, Marquita, and any other Democrats who are running on the primary side. So, I think Gloria has a good shot at getting through the primary and being the Democratic nominee for the seat. Again, because of the Tennessee 3 stuff. Because anybody in Memphis and Nashville who have Pearson or are Pearson or Jones supporters know her as the ally, and that's your three largest Democratic districts in the state.
Sure. Are
covered already and know her well as an ally to their guys who they sent there to try to fight back against the state stuff. So anyway, yeah, that's the Gloria Johnson thing. I don't know. Like I said, I'm curious to see how it goes. What else you got going on? I'm trying to think of what else happened. The Choto thing's crazy. I don't understand. I'll go back to this. All right. I know I've said this 1,000 times on the show, and I know it's apparently a stupid thing to say, but I'm going to say it again. Does the city of Knoxville or Knox County want growth? Apparently not. And
when you say the city of Knoxville, who do you mean?
The residents of the city of Knoxville.
Gotcha.
The constituency. The persons.
Well, that's not even city out there.
I said and or Knox County.
Gotcha.
And everybody kind of scoffs at me when I'm like, is that a question we're allowed to ask? Are we allowed to have the conversation of whether we, as the constituents of county, in this particular case, want to see significant growth? It's not really a question you're allowed to talk about. Yes, we want growth. It's like, you want growth, a politician person, sure. But does your constituency want it? And it seems to be, and this seems to be a regular across time, at least recently, that no, we don't. We really don't. Because we're not okay with what the cost of growth is, which is letting an apartment complex or a Section 8 housing unit be built in your neighborhood. We're cool with it if, it's the NIMBY on steroids. It's not in my backyard. It's like, well, somebody's backyard has to hold it. And if you're not willing to have it in yours, why would I put it in somebody else's? Because everybody's backyard is not okay with it. And so it seems to me that we're not okay with it. We don't want the growth as a community at large. We like the concept of it, but we don't actually want it because we're not willing to sacrifice what is needed to sacrifice to take on growth. We're going to pitch fits and apparently hire some PR firm from Arizona or something to come out here and fight with what essentially this Choto thing is crazy. Essentially, there's nothing they can do. Like legally speaking, there's not a lot of play. Like it's within zoning parameters.
Right.
The Board of Zoning really doesn't have a choice. They have to approve it. Doesn't matter how much public input says we don't want that there.
Right.
It's within zoning rules. Their job is to make sure that as long as the design doesn't have something stupid in it that doesn't fit zoning rules, they have to say yes.
Right. That's all they say, yay or nay on.
To which it can go to commission, but it's only going to commission because there are some pilot and other tax incentive grant programs that are part of it because it's a Section 8 housing, because they're planning on building it as Section 8, that there are some grants and stuff like that, like the developer, I think it's called Dominion, which is funny. The developer is going through the county to apply for a federal grant because they're doing Section 8 housing. And so theoretically, that's a spot where I guess the commission can come in and stop it. But again, realistically, outside of just some of the mechanics, there's really nothing anybody can do to stop this development from coming in because it's within zoning rules.
Right.
And so again, to me, it's one of those, well, you should have pitched this fit 5 years ago when they were doing recode or rezoning Knoxville. Actually, Knox County's been a while. That's actually something that was talked about in some of the commissioners I've talked to about doing a major rezoning throughout the county that they haven't gotten around to doing yet. I don't know when the last time they reset zoning in Knox County was.
No idea.
So anyway, but moral of the story is that ship sailed. This development's coming in whether they like it or not. It's going to be interesting to see if they somehow get it stopped, even though they really don't have grounds to stop it, which is fascinating to me. It's also fascinating to me why you're fucking pissy about it. Like, realistically, I don't understand it. I don't like. I am as. I guess I don't know. I don't know where that sits in libertarianism at large or whatever. It's like it's not my land. I don't get to say what goes on it. That's the general premise of where I'm at. I don't own it. I didn't buy it.
Right.
I'm not selling it. I'm not doing it. It has nothing to do with me. Sure, it's my neighbor. Okay. Now, I could maybe get behind some argument as well. If it's the lot right next door to me, they can't build a 45-story building so that it blocks out the sun.
Yeah.
I could maybe get behind some sort of protections that I do have some ability to see out my window and see more than a brick wall. Maybe.
I think one person said there was concern of, I guess, it was already kind of like a flood-prone area if they have really heavy rain.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere in Knox County.
Right.
Again, that's one of those things. And it goes back to what we were talking about last week, too. It's like we can't build infrastructure to nowhere. We can't prepare for projects as for the infrastructure part of it, for the part that the county is supposed to do. They politically can't do it. They couldn't go out and say, okay, we know that over the next decade, all the predictions say, and all the developers that we've talked to that have been buying up some properties over here and there, we know that there's going to be growth over here. Let's widen North Shore. Why are you widening North Shore? There's only like 50 people that live out there. Now there's those 50 people, or now those 50 have gone to 500, and they want North Shore widened. It's like, well, we don't have the money to widen North Shore right now. Well, you can't add anything else out here. We can't handle the traffic. It's like, well, we could have, but you wouldn't. It wasn't politically advantageous to do so.
Don't they kind of do that commercially? As far as putting infrastructure in, as far as, I guess, small little roads for like a new thing that comes to mind is it's just past the airport right there on the left. It's been a while since I drove by it. I don't know if that was going to be a big neighborhood, but I think that was supposed to be a new kind of like industrial complex.
Yeah, I would hope it's not a neighborhood.
It's like all like commercial and stuff.
That would suck to live right there.
But I mean, they've had those roads there. I mean, this was 2 or 3 years ago when I saw that. But
yeah.
I think it was all in expectation of have that.
Sometimes it's an expectation. Well, but sometimes it's part of the development. A lot of these developers are doing these infrastructure works as part of their agreement with the municipality for it's like, okay, well, this 10-acre lot is owned for 2 houses per acre. Let me get 3. And they go back and forth and have all these different conversations about it. Well, let me get 3 and I will widen Morel Road. We'll widen Morel Road and put a new sewage line in. A lot of times the developer is doing that as part of their development, as part of their agreement with the city or the county or whomever to get the different parts and pieces through.
Yeah.
Because one of the weird things too is like when you have a development that's a neighborhood, there's a point in time where the developer is gifting the streets to the municipality because you bought a 10-acre farm and you built this road in there that goes to all the driveways to all the houses. Well, and for the majority of the time, until the developer signs it over, those roads are actually their property. But somewhere in the process, they gift the roads to the city or the county, so that then becomes municipal property.
Right.
So that then everybody that lives there can have legal proper access to it, and it's not a private road and whatever. Blah 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 blah.
Right.
Some neighborhoods don't. Some neighborhoods keep they keep private ownership of their roads, and that's how they're allowed to put gates up and different stuff like that. There's different rules at play, but anyway, it goes back to the main question. It doesn't seem to me it's the summation of all the different talking and hearing and listening and reading and stuff that I've done over the years of doing the show. When I originally asked the stupid question of when do we really want growth as a community, and I got scoffed at in the question, and as I'm watching it happen, the answer is no. It just seems like the answer is no, because nobody seems to be on board with the things that it's going to take to do growth. And that's going to be a tax increase, that's infrastructure investment, that's putting an apartment complex close to your house, whether you like it or not. And that's the cost of growth. And I don't understand why. I get it in a very insular, selfish sense, but I don't get it either. Because these are the same people that they bought their houses out there, and they're like, holy shit, my house tripled in value since I bought it. Well, only tripled in value because there's demand. And that demand's only there because we're growing. But you don't want growth. Or you do want growth. I'm confused.
It was necessarily growth. Well, I guess, yeah. We have population increase.
Yeah. I mean growth in people, not growth in size.
Right.
I mean, Knox County is not changing size in and of itself, but
I would think my immediate thought would have been growth in size. But
I mean,
when you talk about a city growing,
right? Well, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. Now, again, this goes back to my metro thing too. I think this is where metro makes sense too, because then it becomes, in my assumption that it should trim some costs in the totality of government services throughout the county. It would certainly raise the tax base because somewhere in that it would be some division between the two. Maybe it wouldn't go up to all of Knox County pays the same as the city of Knoxville does currently, but something in there and around the middle of that, so the tax base would grow, and then you could invest in the infrastructure and get it done. Some exciting news about some recycle center that burned down a couple of years ago.
Well, what?
I don't remember what it's called, but it's some recycling waste
one a
company.
few years ago. Yeah, they caught fire, and then they tried to reopen back up like the next day, pretending like they hadn't.
Yeah, apparently they owe taxes and all this different stuff, but it's on the market now, or it was on the market and it's gotten bought, and somebody bought it, and so that's some growth that actually apparently a bunch of people that are usually the anti-growth people are like, yeah, that'd be a good place to put an apartment complex. I mean, yeah, and it's like, I don't know. It goes to one of my things. It's like, you have great ideas, pursue them. This isn't at you personally, but this is like, you want to build an apartment complex there, you get the $8.5 million to buy that piece of property. You spend the millions of dollars cleaning it up because it was a waste facility. It's going to be gross. Probably some legitimate environmental and health concerns that you'd have to clear out before you start putting residential on it. Right. And then you go put $100 million into building an apartment complex there, and then you rent it at an affordable rate. Well, I can't afford to do that. Well, then I guess your opinion on exactly what gets to go in there doesn't really count, respectfully. I don't mean that. I said that really dickishly, and I kind of mean it dickishly, but I really mean it as like, okay, it's not fair that the people that have the money and they can do what they want with the money and stuff like that. Fine. But at the end of the day, unless you're going to advocate for tax dollars to buy it and that your tax rates go up so that the city can buy it and build affordable housing there, it's private property. And, let people build what they want to build on it. If somebody wants to build a light industrial, because apparently it's zoned in a really particular way, and it can go from residential, high density residential to light industrial, can be placed on this piece of property.
Weird.
Yeah. It's up there on the central,
right.
Off central where the train tracks, where the train tracks are, which I don't know if those tracks get used anymore, which is another one of those isms.
I would assume so.
Oh. Like I've never seen a train on either the bridge that goes over Central or the tracks that actually cross street level on Central ever. Right there next to Fanatic.
Are there still lights? Like
no
road crossing lights?
Nope. Huh. But it's one of those that it's like it's bad.
Yeah.
Like, can we, if the train's not running there, can we pull the tracks up and just flatten it out, please?
That could be a whole big ordeal.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Well, because who owns the piece?
I'm sure it's still connected to something.
Yeah, and I mean it's railroad property, so they say what gets done is right. What they say gets done.
Like, no, we might use that one day. Let's just leave it there.
Yeah, just leave it. Yeah. I wonder who pays for the actual crossing though. Like for paving, like the special paving they've got to do for a street level crossing,
right?
And the light structure and stuff like that, because it's their property, but
you're essentially I guess as a city, they're like, well, if you want to be able to cross it, you better make it smooth, because otherwise you're going to go blip, blip, blip as you go over our railroad tracks. Yeah, you better not mess them up.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. Like that's my assumption on it. It's just like, yeah, they're the tracks. You figure out how you want people to cross them.
Right.
Build a bridge, build a tunnel. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Our tracks are there. Deal with it. So yeah, but I don't know, to beat the dead horse. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. I still understand people, I guess. I don't understand people's willingness to speak out of both sides of their mouth like that. Where their opinion on other people's property actually matters.
Yeah, some people just have trouble, I guess, kind of ratcheting it down. This is what I think they should do, and it just kind of turned into more of like, no, they should be doing that.
Right. And I have the right to say so, and not just say so, but have something done on my opinion.
Right. I mean, it's just an air of frustration.
Yeah. And it goes back to one of those, like, the reality is, if we really want growth because it's good for our personal businesses and whatnot. Like, I want growth. Growth's great for me. Growth's good for my property value here at this house, but growth's good for my businesses. More people live in the county. That's more potential customers for me, blah, 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 blah. So I want growth. Growth is great. If I was really, 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 really serious about it, I would be out at every one of these planning commission meetings, and I would be saying, yes, whether it's in my neighborhood or not, because the only people that show up are the people that don't want it in their neighborhood or don't want this development or this growth or this thing built there or whatever. And so if we really cared about it as a community, people would be showing up to counter-protest the people who are protesting the developer. Be like, yeah, I understand you don't want that in your backyard. That sucks. But we need the growth. This is a good, viable option. Let's get behind it, let's get it done, and let's grow as a city. And then another one comes up, go over to that one. Because, again, the only people that show up are the ones that are like, no, I don't want that in my backyard. Well, for those of us that don't want it, actually don't want it in our backyard, we need to go to the ones that aren't in our backyard and try to see if we can't help push it through. So
it's possible.
I'm just saying, like, if like it's because I mean, it's one of those that next time I talk to any of my commissioners, when I get the chance to sit down and chat with them, maybe I'll try to get Ward after he steps down, or not steps down, but after he finishes his term because he's not running again, and just kind of talk to him about some of the practicalities of the job and stuff like that. It's like, how do you handle that as an elected official? You got voted into a seat with, 11,000 of 16,000 total votes in your district, and you're sitting in a meeting talking about a thing, and there's 100 people there telling you no. Well, it's 100 people who may or may not have been in your district to vote for you. But even though that's just for the assumption that they are, that's 100 people that probably voted for the person you were running against anyway. So the 11,000 people that voted for you may be a couple of those people.
All right.
And more importantly, your whole district is like 35,000 people. So you got 100 people telling you no and 35,000 people not saying anything. Whose side do you take? How do you justify that internally as you're making these decisions? Because I'm not saying I'm not saying either side of it's right or not. I'm just saying that's an interesting thought processes. Like, are you and maybe, I don't know, he hasn't contacted me, but maybe he's doing direct outreach to his district and talking to them about issues that are controversial before he goes in there. Which again makes the public forum always kind of funny because 9 out of 10 commissioners have already made up their mind on what they're going to do. The public forum isn't changing anybody's mind about anything.
Well, I mean, there's benefit to listening to those the very vocal, possible your own constituents, but at the same time, you should be thinking about all the constituents in your district.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But even more so, it's like this is a project that's in a different district than yours anyway, and so none of them are your constituents,
right? Unless
Unless you're an at-large or something like that. But further down the road, it's like that's not even, it's not even in my district. These constituents not don't matter to me, but my constituents want growth. We want Knoxville to be able to handle this growth. We want the infrastructure in place. We want to do these things. This is a project that can do that. We can get the tax rolls up. The tax rolls go up. We can afford the infrastructure, blah, 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 blah. It makes sense to my core values. So yes for this, even though everybody in the room is telling me it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, and I'd be curious to talk to them about that.
Would be some interesting insight.
So, yeah, that's that one. The Cocktails with Compass is on the books.
Nice.
Excited with that. I guess I shouldn't say anything because their show releases after our show, and if I say anything, I'm going to preempt their premiere. So I'll just leave it that it's happening.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Next week after it's happened, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. We're going to do a live podcast and hang out, and hopefully the colloquy is there. I might put together a survey of just get people to come up. How do you say this word? And have them read colloquy and see what they say. Yeah. And I've just put a little sound clip thing together of everybody saying.
I've read it, but I've never thought about how to actually say it.
Colloquially, colloquial. Apparently there's a festival in Bristol right now that started today. Some sort of music festival or something like that.
I think I may have heard something about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Jesse was on his way. He's like, "Are we done? Deuces." He's like, make haste." He was out. What else? The drag thing happened. Nobody got arrested as far as I know. There was some protesters outside off campus that were I don't know, yelling at people on their way in, telling them they're devils or something like that. I didn't get any specifics.
The Maryville College campus?
Yeah. There were some people who protested.
It's not surprising. It's their right.
UT, not Knoxville, has a new automatic acceptance for state high school graduates with some certain criterias.
Were they a 4.0 or I think it was like 27 or above?
Yeah, I don't know. Except UT Knoxville. It's not. It doesn't apply there. But all the other systems in the school count.
Okay. It was something that if you were either in the top 10% of your class or had a GPA of 4.0.
And I think that is a, I don't know, because Hope Scholarship doesn't count. The lottery scholarship, the free 2 years of community college and stuff.
I would hope that it's
maybe
separate.
Hope does. I don't remember exactly what it was, or maybe it's the.
I was making a joke that I would hope that it's not taking from the lottery scholarship, Hope Scholarship.
Because the 2 years, because you get two. There's as a Tennessee resident, you can have 2 years at a community college on the state,
right?
On the state's dime, and so I think part of this is them trying to get those students back. Students who are taking advantage of the 2 free years and then maybe transferring in, because this will then make the hurdle to get in. Apparently, Texas has been doing a program like this, and like UT Austin is max capacity of freshmen every year with Texas students who fit the criteria, so they don't have outside students coming in. But it's like an early enrollment thing, and it's an early enrollment thing here at the version they're putting in here. And so I really think it's them trying to protect that set of students that are going to the community college and then transferring in. Because if you're looking at like, well, yeah, I want to get a degree from UT, but I'll take those first 2 free years at Pillissippi to get some of my base stuff out of the way and then transfer in. It might be harder to transfer in. And that might become a question. Be like,
I thought I heard
can I afford to take that risk?
Yeah. Well, I thought I heard part of it was to try to lower like institutional costs, I guess, as far as if you were letting in lower GPAs. And that's one part that didn't really make sense to me. But I guess they expect to have to spend more money with, I guess, like student tutoring or something kind of bullshit. That doesn't make sense to me. That sounds pretty fucking stupid. It's like, well, if we let in, lower GPA people, we may have to tutor them more.
I don't know.
It's like, no, you let them fucking fail out.
Yeah, but that's.
I mean, you're there to assist them if need be. If they come in and say, "Hey, I need help," but
yeah, but you don't want.
I don't think they proactively do that.
Not really, but they don't. I mean, that's the whole point of the acceptance thing. They want to accept kids that are going to graduate. It's not. It is a bad factor on their different rankings, national rankings as a school.
Right, but that wasn't
your graduation rate is low.
They made it seem more that they were going to have to spend more money to, I guess, keep people up to par.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't seen.
I know there's student services and things like that.
I hadn't heard much about that.
Yeah, I didn't hear about it until today. I guess they announced
it announced it this morning. So. Yeah. Excuse me, but I don't know. Yeah, again, I don't know. Again, I think it goes back to I think there's 2 parts. I think they're trying to protect themselves from kids using the community college advantage, and I think they're trying to, trap is an overstatement, but it's the first word that came to mind. I think they're trying to trap kids back into the college game, where, well, I got a good GPA in high school and I'm accepted at UT. I might as well go. Why would I go to a trade school when I'm accepted at UT and I could go get a degree in?
If they were hurting for students, I can understand that, but they're not.
UT Knoxville isn't. The state, like Martin and them are. That's why it doesn't apply to Knoxville. Yeah. Is like they're guessing it's going to add like a couple hundred students per school. So UT Chattanooga, UT Martin, UT. There's 4 campuses. The new one they just added last year, 2 years ago.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, they just added one a year or 2 ago. And so that's my skeptic outlook on it, is that this is a way to try to get kids in to their less productive schools. Productive schools, that's not a great word. To their less, whatever, I'm going to stick with it. Less productive schools. Get kids in there. And at some level, there's that sunk cost from the student's perspective. It's like, well, I started, I need to go ahead and finish, even if they don't really want to be there. Because I think the narrative has shifted. It's starting to shift in the grand scheme of things about the need for college. As far as like you graduate from high school, you have to go to college to ever get a job that's worth a shit. Like that ship's kind of sailing. plumbers and HVAC and tradespeople are getting pretty well paid. A lot of them.
Yeah.
But like you said a couple weeks ago, I think it's going to be interesting as the cultural aura around it is shifting. As more kids come into getting into the trades because it's high-paying jobs, how much does the pay stay up? Or does the pay stagnate and or fall as more workers come into the workforce?
I don't believe so.
I mean, I think it depends how many, but I think it'd have to be a huge number shift. Because like one of the problems a lot of them are having now is like what's the average plumber's like 50? Some high number.
I've heard that, especially with carpentry.
Yeah, and so it's a higher number, and so it's going to take at least 2 generations to replace what's there, and then to actually start oversaturating the market.
Yeah.
So it'll be a while before we see any of that shift, if it comes.
I wouldn't foresee drastic changes. I mean, I would think the hourly rates, as far as what you would pay a skilled labor to come do something, is still going to be relatively
right. Well, I mean, it's really going to be a question of whether its pay rate increases in unison with all the other stuff that's going on, or whether it stays flat and other costs go up. Does its average pay stick close to the inflation rate, or does it stay where it's at as inflation goes up? And so it's technically,
I'd say part costs have gone up,
right?
And
I agree.
Possibly to an extent, whenever fuel starts getting out of control, you're going to have added costs for service calls, basically.
Yeah. But again, as the employee, not as the business per se, it's a different. Like as the employee, what are you paying your employees if you're a plumber? If you're a plumbing company and you have employees, what are you paying your employees versus what you're charging the customers? And then over time, if you have a bunch of employees that you don't need, do you start cutting pay or not giving raises because you don't need to keep employees? It's the incentives portion.
Yeah, I don't foresee a drastic change in hourly rates from employers to the employee.
I don't see it as a direct change. I'll agree with you there. Like I don't see it as going to be we're firing everybody and hiring a whole new staff at 30% less than what we're paying everybody now.
Right.
I would see it more as year in and year out it was going up 50 cents, $1, $1.50 a year to only going up a quarter a year, a dime a year, a nickel a year, and then all of a sudden it's been $65 an hour for 10 years straight.
Yeah.
But everything else is going up around them. So it's effectively a pay cut, but it's not specifically a pay cut. That would be my assumption as the market gets saturated with more people doing the job. But we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's got a while. I think it's got a long time before it's going to happen. I know none of the kids that I know. Well, actually, one of my kids' friends is kind of into cars. He kind of has a mechanical bug to him. He's taken apart his little dune buggy a couple times.
Yeah, tell him to keep up with electronics and shit too.
Yeah, his dad's really into it, so that's one of their things they do together. And so his dad's rebuilding his SUV. He's been rebuilding. He's built 2 or 3 now. He just kind of builds them, drives them, takes them apart, builds them again. It's just kind of how he likes to do it. So, what else we got going on? Things and stuff and junk. I didn't throw as many specific topics at you as I normally do. I usually throw a bunch of different things. Yeah, I didn't have anything this week. The only thing I sent you this week was the picture of the stupid Sasquatch thing I was talking about last week that you didn't remember we talked about.
Yeah.
Do you remember talking about it? I was talking about Townsend or some shit.
Yeah, I think you said you heard there was some Tennessee.
Yeah. And then on the fridge right here, I forgot it was there, and I saw it after we did it. And then this very nondescript. At some point, this failure documentary is coming. But nope, wrong one. Oh, buddy, what's that going on back there, dog? Planning Commission final agenda was released.
Ooh, goody.
Oh,
damn.
Oh, damn what?
Phoenix is on the 53rd day, reaching at least 110 degrees this year.
Nice. Toit.
Ain't it, though?
Toit. School board's got some stuff going on with special ed. which is kind of weird. They're going to pay a third party to help fill some roles that it's going to end up being.
Yeah, I heard they were adjusting something
significantly more than they're paying their current staff and or anybody they're hiring for the same job because they just don't have enough people for it. They got a bunch of shit. Like one of the things, and I don't know. This is one of those pay me in the terrible rush if you want to. A couple of the lawsuits that it was families versus Knox County Board of Education and Knox County School Board and Knox County Schools at large in the state of Tennessee or whatever, is they were putting a lot of kids that were in the special ed kids into special ed classes and not maximizing the ability of those kids to be in normal classrooms. And that was the complaint. It's like, I don't know the specifics of any of the cases of how much need the student had for extra attention by the faculty or something like that, and what the rules are and stuff like that. But it's just that our kid shouldn't be just in a special ed classroom all day. He should be in the regular classrooms with the other kids for portions of the day and come and go and split that. And there's been a couple of different lawsuits on that. The most recent one was a big one that this special task force study group thing did its thing on and did its report, which, good on the school board. This report was like, you guys suck at this. And instead of the school board saying, screw you, they said, you know what? You're right. We're going to attack it. And so they're going after it. And it's a little wonky. Like, I think it's weird that you're going to pay a company, third party, significantly more than you could just hire a person to do the same job, because you don't want to pay that much for an employee, but you're going to pay that much for a third party employee, which is kind of doofish to me. And what's crazy to me, if I understand correctly, as was told to me off the record by a person, in the total budgetiness of Knox County schools, like special ed constitutes like 20% of the student body or something like that.
Really?
But like 50% of the budget.
It's understandable.
I get it. I do. And I'm not, I don't know what to do. Like, this is one of those situations, like, I don't know what to do. There's no way to have this conversation with my opinions that I have on it without sounding like an asshole. Not that I'm particularly adverse to sounding like an asshole, but but it's not that I want to be an asshole. It's like it's one of those conversations that it needs to be a realistic conversation, but it can't be, because it's just so fraught with being a dick. Because you're going to sound like a dick no matter how you say what I want to say.
Yeah. Because
there's a line somewhere that needs to be drawn on how much is worth investing. And I don't know that we're comfortable having that conversation. That's the nicest way I could think I could work around.
Who's this we? You're not comfortable having that conversation?
I don't think anybody's comfortable having that conversation. I know if you're a school board member, you're not having that conversation. There's no way. There's no way you're going to get up in the school board in the middle of a meeting and say, we're spending too much money on special ed kids. Nobody's going to say that. You will get destroyed.
Do you think we are?
I think there's, I don't know the correct answer, but yes, I would guess we are. And I would think so.
Okay.
Like I said, there's no way of saying I'm not coming off like a dick. I'm not trying to be a dick. But
I know you're not trying to be a dick.
I am a dick. I know, you're right.
I'm not saying you're being a dick.
But I am.
I would say you're probably looking at it without all the facts.
Certainly. I don't have all the facts on anything. Ever.
That's true.
But and again, just to be blunt on it, it's like, so, I know I'm going to dance. I'm not going to.
You've got a higher student-to-teacher ratio in special ed programs, so automatically that's going to be, probably 5 times as much as you're paying like per teacher that has a 35 student classroom.
What's like the broad phrase that they always say about like schools? Why are schools important? Like in a political sense, like when you're running as a politician, schools are important. Why are schools important? Children are
future of America.
Right. So we're investing in our children. That's one of those phrases. We're investing in our children.
Yeah.
What is an investment? Putting up money today because it gets us money tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is that an accurate breakdown?
Yeah. So special ed people aren't going to make us money.
At some level, yes. That's
okay.
that's the blunt asshole part that's
they don't work. They're just
I'm not saying they don't work.
They're just
there's some that do
off
work.
the social network.
There's some that do work, and I'm not saying we should throw them in a pit in the ground, but I don't know that it's necessary that the school system should be responsible for it, where we could have other social services take its place.
I'm trying to remember if it was brought up in our state legislature or another state legislature where they were trying to pass a bill to require at least minimum wage for a special needs employee. Apparently, I didn't realize. Apparently, it's legal in some states.
I mean, I tried to get a tax incentive for one of our employees who's like real messed up from as a veteran. Like, you know, he might have some like serious brain damage from his time overseas.
Right.
You know, because can you kick us out some money since we're keeping him employed? It was a joke, but
I think this was more like kind of like Down syndrome and whatnot.
Right.
Like, but I didn't realize it was legal to pay them less than minimum wage. And they're like, well, they're not really an employee per se. So, well, why did you hire them? And why do you think that you can pay them less? That just seems really wrong to me.
It seems kind of gross. But I don't know. I mean, it could be the intent was that I have no need or want or as a business, I don't really need or want this employee, but he's a good kid and I want to help him out and I want him to feel like he's a part of something, but
I want to pay him like he's a part of something.
But he's not going to come and do the job. If I want somebody to come and do the job, I'm going to not hire that person. I'm going to hire somebody else that can do the job. If there's a job that's getting done, that's a separate conversation. But if it's more of almost a community service from the company for the employee's sake, I don't know.
A handful of I've seen are like menial jobs anyway. It's, you know, baggers at a grocery store or, you know, cart.
Yeah, if they're doing work
if
they're doing work that you would pay somebody else minimum wage for or more, then they should get paid the same.
Yeah.
If they're doing the same level of work. If it's an understood that they're doing half the work because of, I kind of get the argument.
Like, okay, like here's a mop, you know, let's go around and like mop some stuff for 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's
I thought it was gross when I first. I was like, "What?"
It is kind of
thing.
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, what do we have? Who was it? Who was the band kid?
Oh, Jason.
Yeah. You know, he enjoyed it. He got really excited about it. Now, this is Knox County Schools, or this is a school program in the band and stuff like that. But like, you know, like you could have like an auto shop that some kid was really into and really liked it and was really excited about it, but he couldn't really functionally do anything. But yeah, man, you come work for us, give you a shirt, do the whole thing. Kick you out a couple bucks if you help us do a little bit of this, that, and the other, but I can't pay you as an employee.
Right.
You know, and it's trying to be, I could see it being abused, don't get me wrong. But I could also see it as a way to help encourage a company to kind of
I guess it all depends on
more.
like how you set that up, I guess, on the front end. Of like, you know, hey, you know, you're an auto shop, but like I really don't need anybody, but you know, I could use somebody, you know, a few hours a week, just kind of helping like clean up a little bit because we're constantly turning wrenches or whatever. We don't have much time to just kind of like do kind of some menial stuff. But hey, if that's something you're interested in doing, you know, I can't pay you as a regular employee, but I'll give you this, or this.
Right. And you just really enjoy the time being there, and he picks up at
free
everybody's
oil changes, you know, whatever.
Right. Everybody enjoys him being around because he's a fun kid and all that kind of stuff. I don't know.
But that's an agreement that I would recommend, you know, for the best situation. You have that decided on the front end.
Right. But again, I mean, it has to be legal. It had to be legal some way, shape, or form for that agreement to be made.
True.
Now, should there be maybe some oversight to make sure that that's not some shitty company taking advantage of a kid that has problems? Yes.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you'd file taxes on that. Like, I don't know how you'd file. Like, I'm sure there's a mountain of paperwork for the employer to make that thing a reality, to show that he's paying somebody less than minimum wage and not get fined or shut down for it.
I mean, can you offer low salary, like $10,000 a year or whatever?
Not anymore.
Really?
It was an Obama law that Trump clarified, and it was you cannot pay someone's salary that's less than $45,000 a year. It's very vaguely written in the Obama version, and the Trump thing clarified it. It's like less than $45,000 a year unless they have a significant supervisory role. So you could do, like, if I hired you to oversee other employees, I could pay you less than $45,000 a year on salary.
Oh, I was thinking that backwards. In case like you had other people that were supervising you.
No, you have to be the supervisor to be on salary. Or make
it doesn't make sense. Why would they pay you less just because you're supervising a bunch of people?
Well, it's not that they pay you less per se. It's a way to pay
they're
you
allowed
less.
to pay you less specifically because you're supervising other people?
Well, no, because the other people you're supervising can't be on salary.
Okay.
Unless you have like a team of people that are making $50,000 a year each, and they're on salary just because of what they do for $50,000 a year, and then I'm paying somebody else $40,000 a year to supervise them. I could pay the $40,000 a year person a salary, but it would be weird to have them paid less than the people they're supervising.
Right.
And so functionally, nobody who isn't nobody's going to be a supervisor to salaried people unless they're making plus 50, 60 plus a year.
Yeah.
And so realistically, it's like, well, you're a supervisor at $40,000 a year because you're supervising a bunch of minimum wage people, which is still kind of weird because the law was written to try to protect employees from companies who were giving people salaries so they could work them 60 hours a week instead of having to pay overtime. And so basically the math is like pretty close to exact on if you're making like $10 or $12 an hour with overtime at 60 hours a week. So basically they made it so that it was cheaper for the employer to work you 40 hours or work you 60 hours and pay you overtime than it was to put you on salary. That was kind of the combination of things that they were trying to put together for this.
That makes a little more sense.
Yeah. Which I do agree. That's companies do stuff like that. Cookout did it. I'll say it. I don't give a shit. Throw them under the bus. They had some of the dirtiest labor practices that I'd ever been under because they put me on salary, and it wasn't a bad salary. And I clocked in, and they said, hey, if you get overtime, if you work more than 40 hours a week, which I was scheduled 50 to 60 every week, we'll pay you $10 an hour on top of your salary for every dollar or for every hour you work over 40. So, oh, that's cool. That's a really cool thing you do. A lot of companies don't do that, which is true. But then you do the math and think about it for a second. I'm on my 50th hour of the week making $10 an hour, where the minimum wage kid that's working next to me, if they were in overtime, would be making $13, $14 an hour. Well, no, they'd be making like 11, but whatever. Get the point.
All right.
So, anyway, what you got?
None.
Oh, I thought you were looking for something.
I was looking for something.
What are you looking for?
Anything.
Oh. It's not a slow news week. I'm just not feeling a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Huh? So it's up kind of interesting. It's nothing really huge. Guess there was an article, the Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
But I guess he came out with something recently that I guess he's a Second Amendment absolutionist or something.
Absolutist?
Absolutist?
I wouldn't think it would be an absolutionist. I don't know what an
Right.
absolutionist is.
Yeah, I'm just making up words. It's fun sometimes. I'm keeping you on your toes. I guess he thought that convicted felons should be allowed to carry weapons. I guess he's getting a little flack for saying that.
That sounds like an absolutist to me. Everybody has the right to bear arms. I think there's probably. I don't know. I'm not. I think if our justice system was remotely reasonable, I'd agree with that statement. Like if the idea is you served your time and you're back out to be a productive citizen, then why couldn't you? You should be able to vote, which you have to go through a big process to get your right to vote back.
Yeah.
Which I think's dumb. But I don't know. Again, like if if the justice system was just and true and did what it claims to try to do, then yes, I think a felon whom has served their time and is been released and has paid their debt to society, they should be able to rejoin society just as if they didn't go to jail.
I mean, I'd be for a kind of like review process, but
I'm okay with that.
I don't think just
you get out.
You're out of jail.
Here's your gun.
Yeah,
don't go shoot the person who ratted on you.
I did my time. I should be able to have a gun right now.
I mean, then
it's like you just got out early for double murder.
When the question is why'd you get out early and stuff like that. There's a lot to it, but it's not
good behavior.
But that's the question, though. I mean, like, what is is our penal system just for punishment? Is it just a penal system or is it a rehabilitation?
It's supposed to be rehabilitation.
Well, if it was doing a good job of that, then I think it would be okay with it. But I don't think it does a good job of that, so that's why I'm hesitant to say yes, absolutely. Yeah. You know, like if we had a better system and people were going in, getting the help and the treatment and the understanding that what they did was wrong and all that stuff, and they were rehabilitated getting out, it should be. I mean, I'm not saying you should hand them a gun as they walk out the fucking jailhouse, but
obviously
they should be able to re-enter society as a citizen and be able to do all the things other citizens do. If the system did what it was supposed to, which it doesn't. So fix one and then I'm okay with the other. But right now, no, I think that's crazy.
I saw some pretty crazy fact checks that still just make me shake my head. I'm just
Pence doesn't like populists. Did you hear that story? He's not He's not into populism.
I did read an article about that, or a headline about that.
I mean, basically, he's just like
he was pushing for more. The future of the party was more in conservatism versus populism.
Right, because the future of the party is in the past because that's what the party was, and Trump has pushed the party into a more populist party, and he's trying to walk away from that. I don't disagree with that on a couple of different levels, other than I don't know. I'm kind of into populism. Kind of like it. Kind of like the idea that they answer to us and they listen to us. And there are problems with populism. Don't get me wrong. Like, you know, certain places populism says no abortion, period, no matter what. Tennessee. Even though that's not really a populist statement in Tennessee either, technically. What didn't happen this week?
Oh, you want some of those?
I thought that's what you were shaking your head at.
No, some other one said... It's not an opinion article. The title is Donald Trump Destroyed Horse Race Journalism. And I was just kind of like, huh? What? That really don't
Shot callers?
No idea.
That's the title. That's the job title for people who call races. They're shot callers.
Well, let's see here.
I learned that from Jeopardy. Thank you very much.
Anti-horse racists got their wish as reporting of conventions that served journalism so long proved useless in covering the Republican side of the presidential race. What? Yeah, I have no idea what that was supposed to be.
Okay.
The headline just kind of grabbed me. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Read it again. Read the headline again.
Donald Trump destroyed horse race journalism.
Horse race journalism. So it's not journalism on horse races. It's journalism on...
Yeah, I guess maybe on
the horse race of politics or something like that.
They've got a picture of a fucking horse race. That's why I thought it maybe...
Yeah.
It may have been more literal. It may have been, it may just be more an allusion to...
Right.
The race in general.
Huh.
You want to hear some shit that didn't happen?
No, I don't care. I was just looking for stuff to talk about. I was listening to a debate on third parties. It was an interesting little convo. Like on how to address, it's like, I don't like Trump. I don't like Biden. You got, I forgot his name now, running for the Green Party.
Harry something?
No. Then the Libertarian Party is going to put up their candidate or whatever, whom I will probably end up voting for. But it's just kind of like there's like the strategy talk of like, how do you get to whatever? And like, so the problem, the point that one of the people made that I thought was a really interesting point, it's like, okay, the argument used to be at least, that the Perot, Jill Stein to some extent,
Nader didn't do bad.
Was it Nader? Nader was Clinton?
Clinton and I think the first Bush.
Anyway, I don't remember. Like the argument is that like you have a good, strong third-party candidate. It's not necessarily going to win. At least, and this was kind of my push on it. It's like, it's not necessarily going to win, but the stronger they're showing is the more likely the two parties are going to have to adjust to try to get those people to vote for them instead of their third-party candidate. Yeah. There's a certain sector of the population, myself included, who will likely never, ever vote for a Republican or Democrat president ever again. But the set of people who had, there's a set of people who voted for Hillary Clinton that didn't vote for Biden, that voted for Jill Stein in that race, or a set of people that voted for somebody else in. I guess that was Jill Stein was the Clinton race. I don't fucking remember. In that, the play spoiler thing they always talk about. Well, you vote for the third party, voting for the other guy. Tennessee doesn't count. We're in a safe state, which makes my argument easier because I can vote for that third party in the hopes that there's enough votes nationally that you have to stop and go, hold on a second. There's some serious people that are interested in these ideas. Maybe we as the two big parties need to adjust to try to attract those people to us so they don't have to fight about it. We're not in Wisconsin or Ohio or Georgia where it could actually make a difference to the electoral votes. Yeah. So I can vote for whatever and not care because Trump's going to win Tennessee whether I like it or not.
I think Jill's time may have been more recent. I believe there was some blame put on Nader for the 2000 between.
Right. It was Jill Stein was blamed for Hillary losing to Trump.
Gotcha.
So that was the 96.
Oh, sorry. You were saying Clinton. I automatically.
Oh, yeah. Ron Clinton. Sorry. My bad. Hillary.
I was
Clinton.
like, that was
Hillary Clinton. And so, and it's like, well, the argument doesn't seem to hold over time. Hillary Clinton has gone on record multiple times kind of blaming Jill Stein for her loss to Trump in the first place. But it's not like the party adjusted to reattract those voters to a Joe Biden candidate. They just keep running down the road, the path that they want to run down. The Republicans do the same thing. This isn't a left-right. This isn't one's better than the other at it kind of deal. If the libertarians put out a candidate this year that gets some swell, the theory is they're probably going to take more from the right than the left. Well, Trump loses, he's going to blame the libertarians for losing, not the fact that he's fucking Trump and nobody likes him. You know what I'm saying? And so the party is not going to adjust, thinking, okay, well, we got to fill in, we got to fix some gaps. We got to start appealing to these people who aren't voting for us anymore because those people would have voted for us before. And so that theory isn't really practicing, which is the hope from most people like me who are third-party voters, is that, no, I'm not going to, my candidates aren't going to win. But if they get a good enough showing, you've got to pay attention as the major parties, or you're going to continue to lose percentage points, and maybe in a decade, my party might win something. Because if you want to get my vote, you're going to have to adjust, and they're not adjusting.
I don't know how much takeaway the general public would take from a third-party candidate losing. I don't think it would make a huge difference. I think it would kind of be quickly forgotten right after that.
But I think maybe by the general populace. But I think if you're the party, if you're the top brass of the party, and you truly believe that Jill Stein, all of Jill Stein voters should have been Hillary Clinton voters, and that you lost that election because of Jill Stein, I would think if you're the top, Democratic Party leaders and stuff like that, you're seeing that and you're going, okay, we need to shore up our platform so that next time around, whether it's another presidential race or other, small local or House or Senate races or whatever, that these third-party candidates aren't chipping away at us.
I was looking at it from the population standpoint, not the parties.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree. I think you're right. Most of the general people aren't going to really pay that much attention to it. But I think the party
that was close, and next week, whatever.
Right, but when it comes back around to it, it's going to be like, okay, well, I voted for Jill Stein last time because I was more on the Bernie camp of the Democrats, and they cheated to get Hillary Clinton up there. I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. I'm voting for Jill Stein. You would think that the party would go, okay, mistakes were made. We lost people that would have voted for us, and they voted for the third party because the mistakes that we made. How do we fix those mistakes? How do we become appealing again to those people who left us? You would think that's the natural action, but it doesn't seem to be. The argument this person was making in the podcast I was listening to is like, basically, how low does the bar get when it's vote for our party because the other's the worst over and over again? So our candidate doesn't even have to really be inside the platform of our party anymore because he's not that person. Like how long? Like when does that stop? Yeah. And that seems to be what's going on. Is it just doesn't? It's just you can't vote for. You got to vote for me because if not, you're voting for him. And the easy one, it's very blatant right now with the Trump thing. If you don't vote for Joe Biden, you're voting for Trump.
Sure.
That's the argument that gets played. Dude,
By who?
Do what?
Who's playing this argument?
I mean that the most relevant recent example would be the Hillary Clinton Jill Stein example. Hillary Clinton blames Jill Stein on her loss, and according to AC, the most well qualified candidate to ever run for president,
right,
lost because of this third party person.
It's been a while. I don't recall there being a lot of pushback on that, but maybe that was the thing in 2020.
Well, it's kind of resurfacing because of the guy that I keep forgetting his name of right now, who's running the Green Party ticket this time, Cornel West. There it is. Thank you.
I was thinking. I think the last guy was like Howie Long or something.
Yeah, I do recall that. Howie something. But yes, Cornel West is running, and so a bunch of people are attacking him. It's like, all you're going to do is spoil. You're going to spoil Biden's chances to beat Trump, and if Trump's president again, it's your fault.
Yeah.
And his return is,
I'm running for me.
Don't lose your voters to me. If you're worried about losing your voters to me, that's your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
And that's his stance on it. And then, there's a couple things, and he's advocating for ranked choice. Like it. I might go crazy and vote Green Party. But he's advocating for, he's making a big fuss about both Trump and Biden not participating in any debates through the process. And it's like I think it's reasonable that I think it's unreasonable that Trump and Biden aren't doing debates.
Yeah.
I think it's unreasonable that, and it's not a Biden thing. It's just the history of the game. Incumbent presidents are automatic. It's like, no, that's not fair. Let them primary. Why wouldn't they primary?
Are they automatic?
No, it's not officially automatic,
Right,
but it's kind of automatic.
Okay, I was about to say.
I mean, you have two people who are running, who have done the paperwork, who are going through the process, but as far as there being a Democratic Party primary for president, it's not really happening.
Yeah, I think I just saw a thing, I guess Gavin Newsom put out again that, no, I'm not running next year.
Right. Because he's been looked at.
Right.
Which, he pisses off Pelosi, so as far as Democrats go, I'm a fan.
So I guess she just announced she's running for the re-election. Did she not get... Is she not in Congress right now?
She is. She just gave up her...
No, she's just running for re-election. I guess maybe she was talking about retiring, but I guess she's decided she will run next year.
The part of that is because Gavin Newsom won't guarantee her that if she gets Feinstein, Gavin Newsom won't guarantee who he's going to pick to replace Feinstein. And so Pelosi wants Feinstein or somebody specific. And if she can't have the somebody specific, she's going to keep Feinstein on her ventilator or whatever it is to keep her alive long enough to hold her seat. It's gross. It's real gross. So is the Mitch McConnell one.
Why wouldn't she just run for that Senate seat?
Well, because she wants to stay in the House, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what the game is. There's a period of time where she can't be at both places. She can't be at both places at once.
Right.
And there would be a period of time at minimum that you'd have to leave and take the risk of not coming back to either.
I would like to think that if I were in Congress, that I would aspire to then join the Senate.
Maybe. But Mitch McConnell's no better. That guy needs to retire too.
Yeah.
He had 3 strokes on stage or something like that the other day.
No.
He had, what do they call it? Is the weirdest that they don't know it. He at least says, I haven't seen what it was.
Right.
He says what it isn't.
This wasn't as bad.
It isn't a stroke.
This wasn't as bad as the previous one. And then he
has freeze ups. What do they call it? It's some really generic, nondescript.
Yeah, I can't remember what they were calling it.
Like freeze ups or something weird. I guess he just statues out for a couple minutes and
kind of.
Maybe falls asleep standing up.
Apparently, the doctor said he hasn't had any recent strokes or heart attacks or anything like that, so it wasn't related to that.
Right. There's a press conference that he was in, and they're like, "Well, what was it?" And he's like, "Well, it wasn't." The doctor said what it wasn't. It's like, that's not what we're asking. What was it? And I think there's a line.
I guess he had fell like a year or two ago and just did sustain a concussion. So there's some talk that maybe it was part of that. But it's also he's 84, 85 or whatever.
Right. I'm a privacy person. You know that. But I think if you run for office, I think you give some of that privacy up, and I think it's fair. I think it's fair that we get to know. Maybe not we. The citizens of Kentucky should get to know. Maybe not. We don't have the right to know as Tennesseans.
How do you exclusively give that information to?
You don't.
Oh, okay. So in this,
Kentucky residents have the right to know. If we find out because of that, fine. I don't care.
So you're all about privacy. So
I think if you run for elected office, your right to privacy gets diminished. Yes, it's that simple.
Why?
because you're running for public office. Your health actually has a tangible effect on the public at large, especially if you're a McConnell type character.
Seriously?
Sure.
Would you make that argument for CEOs of corporations?
No.
Why not?
Because they don't get funded by me. I mean, maybe I buy their shit, but
they have a lot to do with the economy or what happens in trade deals, et cetera.
Well, that's its own problem. They shouldn't be able to control the economy. They're a business. They do their business. They shouldn't have a lot to do. What do you mean a lot to do with the economy? They shouldn't be making... I mean, they can make a trade deal with their company and a Chinese company. Sure. Whatever. That's their business. But as far as the way the U.S. economy works...
I mean, just a major bank.
Okay.
And we've had to, with issues with them, they've had...
Okay, if Jamie Gold... Goldman Sachs, no. Jamie Gold is...
He's a former WSOP champion.
Is that who it is?
I mean,
you might be right. Anyway, dude that runs Chase Manhattan.
No idea.
Okay, or whatever. One of the... J.P. Morgan, that's what it is. J.P. Morgan's CEO. Okay. If he has a stroke today and goes into a coma, doesn't really change. It might impact the stock market and the people that are playing that game, sure. But it's not a functional effect on my daily life. Where if McConnell or Feinstein, for example, how much backlog of judges do we have in the federal appointment system because she couldn't do her job?
Okay, that's affecting you how?
That we don't have judges in the system? I'm sure maybe not personally today it affects me, but that affects the way the public works. Yes.
Okay, so it affects you on the periphery, but you wouldn't say that, big businesses don't affect you on the periphery.
Fine, whatever. They all affect me on the periphery. I don't pay their salary. I don't pay their salary by force from the state of Tennessee and the federal government. I'm not forced to pay their salary.
Yeah, you kind of do.
No, I don't.
I'm sure most of those companies get subsidies. Where do those subsidies come from? Taxes.
Okay, well, that's a problem.
Okay.
That's its own problem.
Okay.
But that's not that is the fault of the CEO in the sense that they've made that deal and all that kind of bullshit, but that's not...
I still don't get why you think that their privacy should be obfuscated.
You're running for public office.
Simply because you are their constituent. I'm your constituent. I should know about your health.
I don't need to know all the super details and stuff like that.
What would you like to know?
I mean, if you're 85 and you're having regular strokes...
What do you not want to know? What is off the record? What is more private of these private issues?
I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Nothing, okay. I guess. Fine. I want to know. I want the right to know everything.
You brought it up.
I want the right to know everything.
I'm just trying to flesh it out.
Because if
you want the right to know everything. So are we changing this?
Do the citizens of California have some right to know the functional mental status of their Senator Feinstein?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? So we could have somebody who is legitimately brain dead. The doctors know it. That she is full-on deep dementia, and she's going to go and sit on the floor and vote.
There are processes for this.
What process? Recalls?
Recall, no confidence votes.
How do you get a no confidence vote? What's a no confidence vote? From other members of the Senate?
I believe you can do it from the constituents. I don't know. No confidence vote, that may be more internal.
I mean, the only time I hear that phrase is in parliamentary systems, not here.
Yeah, it could be mixing political systems.
Yeah. A recall's a joke. And then why would you recall them if you don't know? Because you don't know if they might just be making bad choices. You don't know if they're making bad choices or they're suffering from dementia.
I'm sure there is a process for this.
Well, then the process is failing.
Other than just...
The process is failing because she should have retired.
You need to open up all your medical records.
She should have come.
And let everyone know what's going on.
She shouldn't still have her job.
Once you run for office, all your privacy goes out the window.
At some, yeah, sure. At some level, yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, because what's the number one issue probably that goes on in D.C.? I would go with corruption. I think there's corruption issues, just like you referenced when we were talking about the big banks and all their fucking deals and subsidies and shit like that. It's corruption issues at play.
Subsidies aren't corruption.
Okay.
I mean, I don't agree with subsidies, but I'm saying subsidies are not a form of corruption. Subsidies are something that the government has decided between that company will be given to them.
They grant said subsidies to these companies because they're such stellar actors.
Please don't lump it into corruption because that is not what we're talking about.
Because Goldman Sachs or whomever doesn't donate millions of dollars to people's campaigns, and then all of a sudden they get subsidies for stuff on the other side. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Corruption's an issue.
So
do they have
subsidies
the right
aren't
to privacy? Did they have the right to privacy to talk to people and make deals on behalf of the U.S. citizens without at least Congress's knowledge? Let alone our knowledge as the people?
I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Like
Making deals outside of congressional decisions? What are you talking about? Personally going to businesses and lobbying them for what?
So forget the business part of it. In the when we've talked about it here in the state house, when they have committee votes and it's a roll call, it's never a roll call vote. It's just a yeas or nays.
Right.
We have the right to know how you voted on it. I think the way Knox County has it set up, it's kind of funky, but the Sunshine Law makes sense to me. It's not okay that you guys who are making decisions are allowed to go behind closed doors and have conversations about how you're going to make your decisions without public viewing on it.
Right.
I think that's a logical system, but the state house can do it and the federal seats can do it too. I don't like that. I think that's them playing some privacy card that's bullshit. I think we have a right to know a lot of what goes on, if not everything that goes on while you're a sitting whatever. If you don't want to give up your privacy, don't run for the seat. If you're a private person and you have private dealings and you don't want that to be public information, don't run for office. You don't have to run for office. You're choosing to. And so you're choosing to give up your privacy as a part of it, I think would be reasonable.
Yes, there's a level of openness that politicians will automatically have just because of the exposure. I don't think that should open the floodgates of,
okay, so then
of
what do
their
we do,
private lives.
What do we do about the problems like with a McConnell or a Feinstein that's going on right now? We just trust that they're not losing their fucking minds and that they're just going to continue making decisions in a just and normal way, even though it's clear that there's something going on?
I wish that their own parties and colleagues would be able to do more.
But that's not in their best interest. Their best interest is to keep them there because at the end of the day, the worse they get, the more they're just going to do what they're told.
I would like to think eventually it's going to start making them look bad. Because I think you've had a lot of...
But to what
There's
result?
been a lot of Democrats hemming and hawing
Sure.
kind of about Feinstein and the same with the GOP and McConnell.
And so what's the fallout from looking bad?
Depends on the situation.
I mean, what's the potential loss? The potential loss is you lose a Senate seat to the other party. Well, both parties are doing it, so...
I mean, it can go both ways. You can have bad publicity for inaction or bad publicity for, kicking them out without a proper, kind of examination or process of trying to have them removed or taken off a committee, etc.
Well, because I think part of the problem with McConnell is that Kentucky, the governor has the sole right to place interim senator.
Well, that's only if they resign or step aside or something. He can't force
or dies or whatever. Like if there's if for some reason the seat needs to be filled until a special election can be held, the governor of the state. Guess what party the governor of the state's from?
Democrat.
Yeah,
I know. Andy Beshears.
Yeah, which is weird for Kentucky, considering Kentucky's a fairly red state. But get on it, Kentucky. Mix it up. I like it.
I think he's been a pretty good governor.
I don't know.
I think he's been well liked. The interviews I've seen with him, he seems like a pretty heartfelt guy.
I'm gonna say, but like the politics of it for the Republicans at large, even if it's clear as day, because Rand Paul said it, he's like no, because like apparently one of the excuses was dehydration. Rand Paul's like no, there's no way that's dehydration. He's the other senator from Kentucky.
Oh, he's a doctor,
and he's a doctor. He's like that doesn't make a bit of sense.
He's a fucking allergy doctor.
Whatever. He's more doctor than I am, but whatever. But he's also a Republican.
I still love how he attacked his fucking neighbor. That's great. Hopefully these politicians get to stay when all this bullshit happens.
There's a lot of it. I get it. I don't like it either.
I think that should automatically disqualify you. It's like you literally tried to attack your next door neighbor. Sorry.
I don't remember that story. I remember the story about him and his wife walking down the street and his wife got attacked and he went apeshit.
And this had something to do with something that was going on like with his neighbor.
Just like a general neighbor beef, not like a political
I think one of them was like mowing the yard, and I think the next door neighbor was, I'm assuming with him being a sitting senator, it's in a relatively nice neighborhood, but I'm pretty sure his neighbor, I think they had some political differences as well. I think his neighbor was more on the Democratic side. I think they got into something. I don't know what exactly it was. I'm pretty sure like Rand Paul pretty sure was the aggressor in that instance.
It's not very libertarian of you, Rand.
Randy.
Be more like your daddy. I don't know. I think it's. I don't know. I that's a gerrymander. I don't know. That's not a gerrymander. I don't know. I don't know how he's so. How long has he had that seat? Not Paul McConnell.
Good while. I couldn't say for certain.
Yeah, that's its own set of problems. You know, I mean, like I'm not a term limit person. We've had this argument 1,000 times. Like, I don't like the idea of term limits.
Right.
I think it's just a cop out for us that don't vote. I think if you put it on the ballot, it'd be interesting. I don't think it'd pass if you put it on the ballot.
You don't think so?
No, because I think the people that vote want to vote for who they vote for.
You're like, wait, I can't vote for him again?
Yeah.
And I've been kind of torn on it. Like I've said many times, I think there are a handful of politicians that I'm like, they're great at their job.
Right.
I think this is something they should be doing.
Right. And I think, but again, I think all term limits does is take the onus off of us, the voter, to just vote somebody different in.
Yeah.
I think the only part of term limiting that I like is the way is because it kind of puts the party powers in check a little bit, in the sense that you got a primary, at least when if somebody's termed out, you have to primary for their replacement. Where you could kind of skip the primary for their incumbencies. It's really hard to primary against an incumbent. And so if you put term limits in, it forces the incumbent out, which forces an actual primary in play. Because theoretically, if you don't have term limits and you never really primary against the incumbent, and it's a strongly red district, the Republican's just going to not be primaried and then keep a seat over and over and over again. Because the Democrats never going to win there. District 18, for example. Because, like, prior to 2 cycles ago, because the incumbent was retiring, Eddie Manis ran, got primaried by Gina Oster. Eddie Manis hated it, said, I'm not doing this again. And then Elaine Davis primaried with Testerman. So the only reason we had actual primaries happening, was because we didn't have an incumbent. You know, I don't recall a real primary against Becky in any of her races.
I mean, I'd like to think more people would take something away from the fact that he didn't want to run again.
I mean, you asked Matt Shears.
I don't think a lot of people are going to read into that.
You asked Matt Shears what district in Knox County that he thinks he might be able to get a Democrat in that a Republican is currently. 18 is where he thinks he can do it.
Yeah,
I think he's wrong, at least for the foreseeable future. And I think Elaine Davis sucks, but I don't see Cat Pike was an anomalous figure.
I'd love to see just a higher turnout, just to turn the numbers for both sides of the parties, on there.
Throw them out.
Well, we had all these numbers.
Well, I mean, we did. In the 2020 race, we had 210,000 votes in Knox County.
Oh, really?
In the presidential, with the Trump-Biden one, it was a ridiculously large number. It's the largest turnout in for fuck ever. But it didn't go down ballot, which was the interesting one. Like that to me was the most interesting part of it, is that you didn't have down ballot stuff. Because one of Matt's things that he was talking about is a lot of people hate Trump, and so they're going to vote for Biden for president, and then they're going to go Democrat down ballot.
Right.
Nope. They voted for Biden, even though I think Trump won most districts or most precincts in Knox County. But even ones where Biden outperformed any other Democrat historically, the Democrats down ballot did not perform. Which I did ask Matt who they're going to replace Gloria with.
Yeah.
He doesn't know. He's in Istanbul or something like that right now. Stupid travelers. Jackass.
Good for him.
Talk shit about him. I'm listening to the podcast on the flight back.
Hope you have some turkey while you're there.
Oh.
But
these are the jokes, people.
Apparently there's I think it said it was a tourist, but he's 3,000 feet down in a cave in Turkey, and they're trying to get him rescued.
That sucks.
I don't know if he was a tourist at the time.
Israel, Palestine. He's in the Holy Land.
Okay, that's totally different. Well, not too far.
Starts with the same letter. Shut it. Istanbul, Israel. Same 2 letters. First 2 letters. Is.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm an idiot.
No worries. You at least had that sense of, I'm not quite sure if I'm right.
Let me double check this. Yeah, he said we were doing we were taping for the Compass guys, and I was chatting with him because once I get going, there's not a lot that I do during the show. So I texted him. I was like, hey, who are you gonna run in place of Gloria? You coming on the show tonight? He's like, I don't know, and I'm in Israel. And I was like, oh. And then he sent some pictures, and so I started looking through them, but a couple of them were videos, and it started playing the audio. I was like, oh shit, because it was making noise in the background. I don't think I need to double check that actually now that I think about it, but I don't think any of it picked up. It's pretty good direction on these microphones.
You're sensitive,
but I don't know. City races are dead. I don't really care about them anymore. We're already there's already a bunch of people. Matthew Park has announced he's running for District 9 in County Commission. My favorite, what's-his-face, is running against Zachary in 89. Whatever that jackass's name is, I forgot his name. Doesn't bode well for his candidacy if I can't remember his name and I'm actually paying attention. Brian. Who was it? Somebody texted me and said that they were running for District 4 and wanted to come talk at some point. And I said, let me get through the city races first.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's it's already we're already kind of parts and pieces are coming. Some of the pictures coming into focus for next year's, which again, for the county's sake, they're 9 months out. May is when the county primary is.
Bam.
So we don't have a ton of time realistically before this primary, this real primary, ramps up. I got to get to work on a flyer. We got to get this flyer out before the next bout of city race flyers start going out, so we don't get thrown away with everybody else's. We're going to do a every door direct mail thing
for
the news store.
Gotcha.
And I was starting to work on it, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to wait. And Max was like, well, are we going to do this? I was like, we got this primary coming up, and I've seen some of the financial disclosures. There's going to be a lot of mailers going out, and I don't want to send ours out with theirs. He's like, yeah, that's probably a good point. And so the primary is out of the way, and it'll be late October before they start picking up their mailers and start getting real heavy and hot and heavy on campaigning again. So we'll try to squeeze it in late September, early October before it pops off. But we'll go from there. Let's get some news of the weird in here, man.
Oh, let me start out with some... We'll throw a few of these crazy headlines. Don't start that shit yet. So we got a video does not show a helicopter dropping mosquitoes in Florida. Let's see here.
Well, okay, hold on, because I'm not saying I believe the story, but it's a believable story. That's the problem with these.
Seriously?
You
would read that and believe that this was a thing. A helicopter was dropping mosquitoes into Florida.
We talked about it on here.
Talked about what?
When the Navy, was it Navy? I don't remember who was testing mosquito bombs, legitimately dropping things full of mosquitoes out of airplanes on rural Georgia. Do you not remember having that conversation?
Yeah, I vaguely remember.
That was a thing that they did. They weren't infected, but the idea was to test to see if they could functionally drop bombs full of mosquitoes out, and those mosquitoes would go out and sting people and give them malaria or whatever it was. They didn't put malaria in them, but the idea was if we go into another country and want to do some bio-warfare on them, can we drop mosquitoes on them? So it is something that the U.S. military has done in the past, to be fair.
This was apparently tied to Bill Gates.
All right. That's ridiculous.
Okay.
I apologize. My fault. I assumed it was a military helicopter.
No.
So a nice, high-end rich person helicopter?
I don't think it talked about the actual specific helicopter. I think that was pretty much just the claim. Genetically modified mosquitoes that are part of an initiative backed by Bill Gates.
Ooh, what is he doing? What is he trying to do?
Let's see here. Hold on. False. While mosquitoes are being released in Florida as part of a disease control initiative, they are freed slowly from boxes on the ground, not from a helicopter.
I don't understand. What's the initiative? More mosquitoes do what?
I know there was a talk for a while with with West Nile and what's the other major one?
Zika.
And Zika. they had essentially been infecting, well, it was males or females that would then, like, they basically, were, I guess, genetically modified that would then, like, counteract or kill certain ones. It was almost kind of like ant bait kind of thing.
Okay.
Where it was supposed to kind of like deplete the population.
So parts of the story are true. The totality of the story is true in parts, but not in one through narrative. Right. Except for the Bill Gates part.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I mean, Bill Gates is a humanitarian. If he's doing something, if he's funding this to help kill Zika mosquitoes, that sounds like something Bill Gates would do.
Okay. Let's see here. Social media users spread false claim that CNN reported that Cash App is bankrupt. Believable to you? Okay.
I mean, Cash App is based in crypto, and
here's an interesting one. Are there more U.S. hunters than worldwide military personnel? By most measures, no.
Yeah. Are there more U.S. hunters than standing army?
Yeah, the claim is there
from
are
any
more,
individual country? I could say that might be a close number.
There are more humans in the U.S. than the world's armies combined.
That's true?
They said partly false.
Okay, please educate me.
They say 14.4 million people hunted in the U.S. last year, but there could be as many as 25 to 30 million hunters if you account for those who don't hunt every year, experts told the AP.
Okay.
In contrast, there are 43.3 million active duty and reservist military personnel worldwide in 2022.
So that's including the U.S. military? I'm not sure. The U.S. is part of worldwide, I think.
Yeah, I would assume that's all together.
So, I don't know, how big is the U.S.'s military in active and reservists?
Ask me numbers I don't know.
I mean, do you think it's more than 10 million? I think it might be pretty close.
If they give any more numbers.
But still, it's the takeaway I'm getting from this is based on the facts that, what did he say, 14 million last year was the, how many hunters last year?
Let's see, 14.4 hunted in 2022.
And they're guessing that it could be up to 25 who hunt, but not as regularly.
Right.
All right, so I would say that there are more hunters in the U.S. than any individual standing army outside of the United States.
Right. This was the claim that they have, that there are more hunters in the U.S. than the world's armies combined.
Yeah, that's false.
And then,
that's still pretty
kind
close.
of splice that as far as reservists versus active duty.
I mean, it still sounds like it's kind of close, though. Because I'd say there's, I
don't think so.
How many, seriously, how many U.S.?
All right, the U.S. said there could be as many as 25 to 30 million hunters if you account for those that don't hunt every year. By contrast, shows there are 43.3 million active duty and reservist military personnel worldwide.
And according to Google, the United States Armed Forces has
literally 13 million people less.
Right, the United States has 15 million available for military service.
Okay. So that's part of the 43.3 million.
Okay, so that knocks it down to 28. And they said the estimate could go up to 25 or 30 million inactive hunters, but people who hunt on and off. Yeah. So it sounds like it's give or take. It's not a blowout. It's not a ridiculous statement. It's just not exactly factually lining up.
That's with excluding U.S. military. So the number you're trying to put out?
Non-U.S. military forces combined for, 43, so 38, 28 million-ish. And there could be up to 30 million hunters in the U.S.
Okay.
So, non-U.S., yeah, that's what I was kind of going for. That's what I thought the original phrase was. Now, I agree, it's a ridiculous phrase to say worldwide, including the U.S. military. But it's still not even super far off of that one. It's 50%. There's 50% more worldwide forces than hunters.
Yeah, that's not a small number at all. 50%? Nah.
It's not ridiculously far off.
Fucking half. What do you mean it's not far off?
It's a third, but...
How is half a third? 50% would be half of numbers. you're saying it's got 50% more.
It's the combined.
It'd be 1.5. Sorry.
It's combined. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's poor word usage on my part.
50% more would be 1.5 times.
Poor usage on my part. Non-U.S. forces, it's pretty close.
Okay.
Including the U.S., they're 36% or so less than, or something like that. I don't know what the exact math is.
I saw a weird one earlier that had to do with like lasers and fucking the Maui wildfires.
Lasers? I love lasers. Are they the Jewish space lasers? Because those ones are the baddest outside.
Lasers. Let's see here. No, the U.S. government didn't mysteriously lose trillions of dollars the day before 9/11.
But the accounting got fucked up on 9/11.
Let's see here.
That's a big conspiracy theory as part of 9/11.
Burning Man?
The conspiracy on Burning Man?
No, apparently there was Burning Man flooding triggers false claims of Ebola outbreak.
Oh, I did
at
hear
a
that.
national emergency.
Yeah,
I didn't hear anything about that.
I did hear that one.
So I said, I'm kind of glad that like I don't come across like this bullshit. And I'm like, where do people read this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's this going across? Like, I'm glad I didn't see it, but I don't follow a lot of circles either.
Right, and the claim was basically that they weren't letting people leave not because of the mudding and the people getting stuck issues. It was they weren't letting people leave because there was an Ebola outbreak in there, and they didn't want to release it into the regular population.
Oh, what was that? I could have swore it was in here. It had something to do with like there was a bunch of like blue stuff in Maui that didn't get burned, and that was their credit for believing that a laser started the fire because blue spectrum items don't produce heat when introduced to lasers or some weird bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah. News conference now. Another Fauci one.
I haven't heard his name in a while.
It's got a couple, apparently. Fauci didn't say that unvaccinated people must be locked down this winter. And there was one, I guess, like he actually wrote a paper with someone else in 2008 talking about the 1918 Spanish flu. And people took that as he was trying to say that more people died because they were wearing masks back then. He was like, no, masks weren't mentioned in that whatsoever. He did say that more people died of bacterial infections versus the actual Spanish flu, but I mean, with a weakened immune system, you're essentially susceptible to anything,
right.
Especially bacterial infections.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was like, no, see, Fauci said it. The mask killed the 1918 people too. He was like, wait, did fucking say that at all? Did you read the paper?
Did they wear masks in 1918?
Yeah.
No.
There was, it was more like cloth masks, but even back then, they had the presence of mind to know that, like, hey, if we block our sneezes and coughs, it's less likely
to spread said thing.
Right.
Especially if it's water droplet or droplet based, whatever.
Right, just a communicable disease.
Word. All right. You got news of the weird? Or you got any more? Didn't happen.
I was trying to find that space laser one, but I'm not seeing it.
Space lasers. Space lasers.
Boom. No.
Damn. I just missed a news
shit.
break from.
Sorry, clicked the wrong one.
No, high school scores coming in. I don't care about that. My phone. I just missed a
news break.
A news break from Channel 10, and I don't know what it is.
High school football.
But I'm assuming it's high school football.
Football games are over. Woo!
Blount County Sheriff's Office investigation underway after 60-year-old woman found dead in home.
Did see one of the local schools. Some kid got busted for having a gun and drugs. Apparently, it seemed like he was probably dealing at a football game.
Nice. Gotta work, man.
They also searched his truck.
He's a student, or he's just going to get him student?
Pretty sure he was a student. They said he was 18, so he may have been a student, or at least maybe a recent student. He's at least on school property.
Oh, did you see the unis?
The universities?
The unis for this weekend on the Tennessee game.
The unis?
Uniforms.
No.
Yeah, they're wearing some black uniforms.
Oh, I did hear
pretty
that.
cool. Yeah.
We've done that the past couple of years.
Yeah, this one's like a specific.
Yeah, someone's in a memorial of someone.
Yeah, apparently UT had the first black quarterback in the SEC,
Ah,
and this is the 50th anniversary of his first game.
gotcha.
And so, like the way the specifics of the cut, even though they didn't wear black uniforms back then, the specifics of the cut and the color pattern and stuff like that is Holloway. That's the guy's name. Anyway, we just got way off. News of the week. I was just thinking about what I was playing the same time.
What's that?
Is we haven't had a Florida man specifically, and we haven't had nudity
Oh, you just wait.
in a couple weeks. So I'm hoping you're going to fill both those blanks for me right now.
I could maybe grant that wish.
Yes. Back to normal. The world is right again.
So we got Florida man riding human-sized hamster whale in Atlantic Ocean faces federal charges.
What federal charges? Was it like full of heroin from Cuba?
I think this incident was kind of like crazy. Let me see if I can find where all that crazy shit happened. Apparently, this is like the third or fourth time he's tried to done that.
Is he trying to like cross the ocean with it? And like, is it some?
Yeah, this trip he was on his way to London.
Okay,
he was 70 miles off the coast of Georgia.
And so basically he's tried this multiple times. They say, "Knock it off. We're tired of saving your ass."
I think this time they told him like, "Hey, you need to come in. Like, there's a hurricane coming." And it's, if I can find it, at some point he was like threatening to blow himself up and like threatening, had like a knife and was threatening to like harm himself. So like Coast Guard kept like backing off. They were trying to like keep communications with him. They like brought him food and water one day. And he finally was like, I guess he was like holding some wires when he was saying he was going to like blow himself up. So they didn't know what the fuck he was like. All right, well, we're going to back off. And I guess he told him like the next day, he's like, "Oh yeah, I don't really have a bomb or anything." And they're like, "Dude, there's a hurricane coming. You're not going to make it to fucking London in this thing." Because they interviewed somebody and they were like, this hamster wheel, whatever he's in, can get up to like 120 degrees like inside of this thing he's trying to run in.
Hamster wheel or hamster ball?
I don't know if it actually showed a
Like,
picture.
is it like a weird boat thing that he walks on it and moves the wheel and the wheel
Pretty
pushes
much,
the
yeah.
water?
I think like he
That's the
runs it.
paddle wheel?
Yeah, and it kind of keeps going. I don't think it's very large.
Interesting. All right. I'm good with the criminality. That's a crime.
Yeah. It kind of seems like an interesting. I think he was an Iranian asylum seeker from years past, but years ago, I think in the mid-2010s, he actually talked about running across the U.S. and he actually did it twice, kind of like Forrest Gump style. But apparently, this is like the third or fourth time he's
attempted this one.
Use this hamster wheel. Apparently, in 2016 or something, there was some kind of like Vice documentary where they actually interviewed the guy where he was trying to go to Bermuda.
I mean, it's cool. I mean,
and they had to stop him again. They're like, "Dude, you're not going to make it to Bermuda. Like, if anything, you're going to get fucking pulled out to sea or like lost in a fucking like rip current or some shit."
I mean, stupid human tricks is a thing. People do stuff like people swim the channel all the time for the challenge of it and that kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily criminal. I think he should be maybe fined for costs if he doesn't have his own support staff to keep him safe.
Oh yeah, it's just him.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't have like a support boat or a rescue thing that he set up on his own, I think it's reasonable to charge
part
him.
of the charges, if they didn't have to go out and like just rescue him, it's like they tried to rescue him in.
I mean, you did a bomb threat, and
he's doing bomb threats, threatening to like harm himself.
False report of, if nothing else, it's like a false police report essentially that he lied and said he had a bomb when he didn't.
Right. At the same time, I mean, that could be threatening, not necessarily national security, but I mean, Coast Guard are considered military personnel.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're out there in a small dinghy and he's threatening to blow himself up, that's also threatening the lives of those people that are right there next to him. Like, dude, we were just trying to bring you some food and water and tell you, like, hey, man, in case you didn't know, there's a hurricane fucking barreling down on us.
I'm not mad at the charges.
Right.
I think that seems reasonable. Yeah. I think like I said, but people do all sorts of crazy.
Yeah.
Like people have swum across the Atlantic. It's just like not in one go. Like they'll swim and get in a boat and sleep and then get back in the water and shit like that. People are crazy. People do crazy things, and I think that's what's cool about people. But I do think you have some responsibility to tend to your own needs in said situation, and ought not. I mean, that's kind of the same thing about the stupid submarine story. How much money was spent on rescue efforts for the submarine?
Oh, the one that went
the Seagate or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I mean, like at some level, like, okay, you're taking the risk, take the risk, but you're responsible for the outcome. Right. And if you don't take the proper safety precautions and we have to come rescue you and happen to be able to rescue you before you're dead, I think it's fair to say that you should burden some of the costs of what it took us to come rescue you.
I don't think that happens in many cases.
You think it does or does not?
I think it does.
I think it should.
I mean, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have to get life start out or helicopter, you don't get a free helicopter ride.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's reasonable. I think that's fair. And I think at some point, like you do it once and you can't pay the bills and you do it again and they catch you, I think there could be some criminality. That makes sense. Yeah. You're knowingly putting yourself in a situation that is likely going to need expensive rescue procedures, and you're not doing your due diligence to protect yourself.
The naked one, I think it was something I brought up probably like last year. But I think it was like some kind of Philadelphia,
naked bike race.
Yeah, some kind of like naked race.
Did they do it again? Did they? Because you did talk about that one. I kept saying Cleveland.
Yeah. I'm sure. I think the other one was like New York City or something.
New York City was the body painting one.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
that's the one you sent me when you were out of town.
Yeah,
that I did with Tyler Gibbons.
Yeah, this one I think is the one we talked about last year. Riders in various states of undress cruise Philadelphia streets in 14th naked bike race.
Yeah, we did talk about that one a while ago. But it's the last one because the city's shutting it down, or it was announced that they're changing. I don't remember what it was.
No, I think the New York
body paint was the last one.
Yeah, I think so they weren't really going to do that anymore. You heard about the funky smells they've been smelling at the U.S. Open?
Vaguely. Very, I saw a meme on it. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. So this alludes like a Snoop Dogg thing. But apparently, they were actual athletes that were complaining about the wafting smell of marijuana.
Oh, was it weed? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I just heard funky. I thought it was funky, not that kind of funky.
And we got Snoop Dogg's living room. Smell of pot wafts over notorious U.S. Open court. Well, the exact court smell remained a mystery Tuesday. One thing was clear. Court 17, where 8th-seeded Maria Sakkari complained about an overwhelming whiff of pot during her first-round loss, has become notorious among players in recent years for its distinctive, unmistakable odor. Court 17 definitely smells like Snoop Dogg's living room, said Alexander, the tournament's 12th-seeded man. Oh, my God, it's everywhere. The whole court smells like weed.
I mean, I think the statement from one of the athletes would be like, if I pop positive on my test for the tournament, it's your guys' fault,
right?
Not mine. And then go get high that night.
Why's everybody giggling? What's so funny? Did I miss? Oh, I thought I hit it.
Cheech and Chong in the house. I see Cheech Marin's running for mayor of San Bernardino or something like that.
I hadn't heard about that.
He's got into politics. Oh, all right, man. That's the last call. I've got nothing unless you got something else.
Now, there was one crazy story. Did you hear about? I guess they dug up a West Point treasure box that was underneath the monument past 150 years or something. A
time capsule?
Mm-hmm.
No, I did not hear about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was empty when they opened it up. It was pretty much dust inside.
So it had stuff in it. It broke down, or
it was a lead box at West Point, believed to have been placed by cadets in the basement of a monument almost 2 centuries ago. It was opened Monday during a live stream event and revealed to contain little more than gray dust.
So it's the best prank ever. It's a 200-year prank in the making.
No, I don't think it was a prank. I think shit just happened while it was there for 200 years. Just time took over.
I choose to believe it was a prank. They buried an empty box, told everybody about it.
I don't think West Point would do that underneath a fucking monument.
It's pretty funny if they did, though.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, the cadets got to fill the box.
Who's going to know? The greatest joke is no one's going to know it's a joke unless you actually leave some kind of effort of letting them know that it was a joke.
Yeah.
You put a metal placard in there that can't disintegrate and rust.
Suckers.
Haha, gotcha.
Yeah, I suppose. All right, man, that's a show. All right, everybody, thanks for listening. That's that's a Friday show. I get up early tomorrow. I'm driving to Hotlanta, going to see a rock show with my youngest. I'm a little scared. Anyway, we're Almost Agreement, almostagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check out all the episodes we've ever done. Go check out some of the interviews I've done with some different people over time. Go to your favorite podcast provider. Give us a follow and share there, and do all the things that you do to support what we're doing. Let other people know. Yeah, so that's our show, everybody. Appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you guys next week. Have a great night, everybody.